soul, every beating heart, every nation and every tongue, come find hope in the love of the Father. All creation will bow as one, lift their eyes, see the risen sun, Jesus Savior forever and after. This is love. Jesus came and died and gave His life for us. So let our voices rise and sing for all He's done. Our fear is overcome. Our God is love. All right, well, it is great to see everybody here today, and I just wanted to say thanks for being here this morning. If you haven't filled out a Connect card, if you're one of our guests, it'd be great if you grab that from the pew. Later on, the service will receive an offering, and that'd be your gift to us today. I started this series last week called Love Does, and I thought I was being real original with the title, and so I thought, well, I'm going to do a little bit of research on this, and I got online, and I started looking, and I found a book that was called Love Does. And so I wasn't as original as I thought. And I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and buy the book and read it. It's a great book. I want to encourage you to pick it up if you just want some real good, encouraging stories. But it's written by a guy by the name of Bob Goff. And he was a guest with the If Gathering a couple of weekends ago. And so if you were late and you were here that weekend, you actually got to see him. But I want to read a story of him and his wife, and really kind of the first interaction that they had with one another. It was about Valentine's Day, so I figured we're close enough to Valentine's Day that I can tell you this story. I'm going to read a little bit and then tell you the rest of it. So here's how it goes. He titles it Sweet Maria, and that's how he refers to his wife. He says, "Do you remember falling in love the first time?" He says, "I do. As a Young Life leader in college, along with my buddy Doug, Young Life is an outfit that does a great job with high school kids introducing them to Jesus of Nazareth without making a big religious deal. A girl just out of college named Maria came to help Doug and me because we didn't have any college-age women leaders. I was standing up front playing songs on the guitar when Maria walked into the room. And when I saw her, I immediately broke a string. I leaned over and I whispered to Doug, 'That's Mrs. Goff.' I asked Maria later what she remembered about that night, and she says she doesn't remember whispering anything to anybody about me. If Jesus taught me anything, though, it's that sometimes you can really want to know somebody, and it takes them forever to want to know you back. The day I saw Maria was 10 days before Valentine's Day, and since I had already secretly claimed her as my bride, I figured I'd better let her get to know me. You know that feeling where you don't know what to do with yourself, that everything reminds you of that person? A painting, a sunset, children playing, a couple holding hands, a paperclip, my wristwatch, everything. Yet thinking about them isn't enough. You've got to do something, anything, because of what you're feeling on the inside. And so he says Maria worked at an advertising agency on the 12th floor of a high-rise office building downtown. And I had known Maria for a whole week and a half. So I did the most sensible thing possible. I made her a huge Valentine's Day card. I got 2 sheets of cardboard, 4 foot by 8 foot, and I glued the edges together. It was a perfect envelope. I made a stamp the size of a doormat, and I put it on the envelope upside down, which means I love you. Inside, I took another 4 foot by 8 foot piece of cardboard, and I wrote, "Maria, will you be my Valentine?" Simple, straightforward, not too hard to spell. I really wanted to write, "Maria, will you marry me?" But it would have been a little early. Proposals are definitely week 3 material. And that's a true story. I'm thinking, man. So he gets this card. He borrows a friend's truck because he can't carry it in his car. He's got it in the back of the pickup truck, drives all the way downtown to this high-rise building that Maria works at, and he lugs it out. He gets in the elevator. It's not fitting so well in the elevator. And so he gets all the way up to the 12th floor. When he gets off the elevator on the 12th floor, he realizes that word must have spread a little bit because there's this large gathering of people that are kind of watching him try and get this thing out of the elevator. And he says for the first time in his life, it dawned on him that maybe this wasn't such a good idea. But he was all in. I mean, there was no going back at this point. So he finally gets off the elevator. He's got all these people that are standing out in front of him. He tells them what he's there for. Maria is paged. She walks around the corner, and there's this mortified, horrified look on her face. You know, Maria, will you be my Valentine? He's known her for a whole week and a half. He says it set back their courtship at least 6 months minimum. His friends told him, he said, at the mention of cardboard, she would break out in hives, okay? Just that she would just get a little bit nervous. And so for 6 months, she tried not to make eye contact with him, no small talk. I mean, nothing to encourage the crazy guy with the 4x8 Valentines that came off the elevator in her office. But finally, things worked out for them, and obviously she's his wife now. But the point of all this is that love does. And when you're feeling that emotion inside of you, when you're feeling that feeling for somebody else or for anything else, really, there's something in us that has to do something. It's like you can't contain the energy. It's got to be dissipated. It's got to be responded to or acted on in some way or another. And so love does. That's what we ended up talking about last week, is just the whole thing about love does. And so last week as we left, and if you forgot, I'm going to give you a reminder this morning, is that it was your job as you left last Sunday morning to think of some creative, imaginative way to express to somebody in your life that you love them and that you care for them. Maybe your husband, maybe your wife, maybe a grandchild, maybe a son or daughter, doesn't matter, but just somebody in your life that you could say to them, listen, I just want you to know that I love you and I care about you. So my wife often asks me, don't you ever listen to yourself preach and do what you say? I'm like, I do, but it's a really high bar, so I'm trying hard, okay? So I went home last Sunday after church, and I got a call from my oldest daughter. She's taking tests for the CPA, and she had a migraine, her head was hurting her, and she didn't know what she was going to eat, and she had to go to the doctor, and she wasn't feeling well. So I was like, okay, here's what we're going to do, baby. She just cooked all this meal that she thought was going to last for the next week. I said, let's give it away. We're going to take it, we're going to pack it up, we're going to take it to College Station, and we're going to give it to Taylor and just take her out to eat, just visit with her, kind of get her mind off of everything. I said, because remember what I preached, right? Love does. So we got to do something. And so this is what we're going to do. We went to College Station, and I want you to know it was a blessing. It was a blessing for me. It was a blessing for my wife, even though she lost all the dinners that she had prepared for the week. But my daughter was really blessed. I mean, it just made her day. And I was like, this is great. So you guys remember that. Love does. It's something you got to act on. So I want you to do that. And we're going to kind of extend it a little bit out this morning, too. So we're going to be over in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Famous love passage, maybe a little bit different today than you thought about it in the past. But before we get there, I want to tell you a little bit about chapter 12, because chapter 12 is really pretty important to Paul in how he leads into this whole idea about love. So here's what he's talking about in chapter 12. He says, Paul makes this point, God has gifted you. I mean, God has given you so many different gifts. I am constantly amazed at new members classes and conversations with everybody just to find out all the stuff that y'all are good at. I mean, you genuinely are gifted at so many different ways. And then to see you walk with God and really develop a relationship with Him, and to see the spiritual gifts that God has given you. Some of you teach. I never would have known you would have been able to teach before. I mean, some of you preach, and I didn't know that about you. And I mean, serve in administration, and just gifted in so many different ways. And so in chapter 12, Paul begins to list out all these gifts. He's talking about the gift of giving, money, administration, like organizing all the unorganized people around you. That's a really important gift if you're a mom, especially. People who are just gifted at service, you don't want to be up front. You just want to help other people and be around them and be just help to them. There are all sorts of other gifts about miracles and tongues and healing and leadership and preaching and teaching and just all sorts of things. And I don't want you to think that list is exhaustive. You might look at that and think, well, I don't have any of these. It's not. There's so many different ways that God gives us spiritually for the benefit of us. Now, it does benefit you, and I don't want you to think that it doesn't, because it does. I mean, you are blessed when you lay down your life for the benefit of Christ and for the church. But the gifting of the Spirit of God in my life and in your life, it's really not just for you. But really, it's about the church, right? It's about the body of believers. It's about all the people that are sitting around you right now and the people that you don't even know, have never even met before. And so God gifts you with spiritual gifts that bless you. But you know what? You're called to bless the church with those too. You're called to take all the gifts that God has given to you and to use it in the church, because God has a vision for us. God has a mission and purpose. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about what our vision is, the same one it always has been, to lead people who are far from God into a personal relationship with Jesus as their Lord and as their Savior. I mean, that's the vision that God has for every single one of us, and that's what He has for us as a church. And so we take the gifts that we've been given and we use it for the benefit of the church, and God blesses it. Now, here's where love comes in. Paul says this: you can be the most gifted individual ever. I mean, just outshine everybody else around you. Just think, man, wow, that's just amazing that somebody's that good at that thing. He says you can be that gifted, and if you take out love, it means nothing. Really, you're left with zero. It's kind of like any number multiplied by zero is what? Is zero. And so if you take any gift, any ability, any natural inclination that you've got that God might use for the benefit of the church, and if you don't have love, it's like multiplying it by zero, and that's what you get is zero. Listen to the way that he puts it. It's at the very end of chapter 12 and the beginning of 13. He says, and I will show you a still more excellent way. So it's like, here's all the gifts, but let me show you a better way. Let me show you how the gifts function. Let me show you the motivation behind the gifts. Because if they work on their own by themselves, then you miss it out. You don't understand. But if you couple it with love, that's the sweet spot. That's where things need to be. And so he says, if I speak with the tongues, if I have the gift of tongues, of men and of angels, but have not love, I'm just a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. I mean, just making noise. That's it. It's multiplied by zero and you get nothing at all. And he says, and I have prophetic powers. I can preach, I can teach, I can understand all mysteries and all knowledge. And if I have all faith so as to remove mountains but have not love, doesn't matter. I mean, you can believe all the right things about God, have the ultimate faith in God. God, I know you're going to take care of absolutely everything. But if there's no love in you for God or for other people, it's times zero. It's not made any difference at all. Matter of fact, sometimes it ends up hurting the church more than anything. And then he says, if I give away all that I have, you have the gift of giving, got all this money, you're going to give it away, and you deliver your body up to the flames to be burned. You have the gift of martyrdom, but you don't have love, you gain nothing. I mean, you give all the money away, you let yourself be burned on the cross. I mean, all those things don't matter to you one bit unless you have love. And so love, you got to have it. That's what all these gifts hinge on. If you don't have that in working with all the gifts that God has given to you, you end up with nothing. It's like guys, girls, they're just phenomenal athletes. But you know what? If they don't have love, they're just an egomaniac. That's just kind of how people end up. You've got people with incredible gifts of leadership. But you know what happens if they don't have love? You get a tyrant. You get a tyrant at home. You get a tyrant in the government. And that's bad. Nobody wants that. You have somebody that's just gifted at making money, but there's no love, so they don't give anything away. And so what you end up, and I don't know if you guys watch this show, you know, the Shark Tank, you know Mr. Wonderful is. I mean, obviously the man can make money. Obviously he's very adept at what he does, but he doesn't come across as somebody, and I'm not trying to judge him, but he just doesn't come across as somebody that loves other people very much at all. He's just pretty cold and calculating. And that's what you end up with. Or you can have somebody that is the best preacher, the best teacher, man, got prophecies, understand mysteries, got all knowledge. I mean, but if they don't have any love, you know what you end up with there? Legalism. You end up with somebody that's very religious on the outside. But there's really no heart, there's really no passion for people, there's really no love for other folks. And as smart as they may be, as intelligent as they might be, I mean, as good as they may be at standing in front of a crowd or preaching and teaching, if there's not any love, then, I mean, it's times zero. You get nothing at all. So Paul says this is the most excellent way. It is the way of love. And then he describes what love is. In verses 4 through 6, he says that love is patient and it is kind. It does not envy or boast. It's not arrogant. It's not rude. It doesn't insist on its own way. It's not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. And so if you want to have a picture of what you're supposed to be like, I mean, the characteristics of your life, who you are as a person, I mean, there it is. This is what it looks like. That love is patient. Love is kind. It's not arrogant. It's not boastful. It doesn't applaud at the wrongdoing that other people do. I mean, it's not rude. It's not envious of others. You know, I think sometimes with us, we struggle with the whole envy thing and the boasting thing. We see somebody else that we think is prettier than us. And we kind of get just secretly a little bit angry. We can't just be happy for them. We have to be kind of angry at them because we don't have what they have. Or you see some guy that's got more than you do. More money, bigger truck, nicer tires. I don't know. Whatever's important to you. And you look at these guys and you're like, man, I wish I had what he had. And you can't just genuinely just go, I'm just happy for him. You have to kind of just secretly in your heart just kind of hate him a little bit, not even want to talk to him, be around him because, there's something else going on inside of your heart. It's not love. Or we start boasting about what we have and what we've accomplished and what we've done, how much money we got, and look at my wife. And, we start boasting about those things, and that's not love. Do you know why that's not love? Because what does that do to the people around you? The people who are listening to you boast about what you have and what you've done. I mean, what it does to them is they feel lesser and lesser and lesser. And maybe they might think they got more than you or their wife's prettier than your wife. And so then they start boasting too just to try and one-up you because they got to try and make themselves feel better. And nobody's really loving each other at that point. So if you want to know what love looks like, there it is. It's for you. It's right there. It's not rude. It's not boastful. It's not arrogant. It's patient. It's kind. That's what love looks like. But here's what love does. And this is what verse 7 kind of goes into. And it's for us today. Here's what he says. He says, love bears all things. It believes all things. It hopes all things. It endures all things. Love, listen, it fights through all the difficulties of life. That's what it means when it says that love bears all things. Now, this one, as well as all the other ones that he talks about, you can't press it too far, okay? Because there's people in really bad situations in life where they're in an abusive relationship, they've got other things going on in their life. They hear passages like this, they read them in the Bible, and they're like, I got to bear up underneath this. I got to keep trying. Listen, you have to use some wisdom here and some discernment here. God's not saying bear up under any and every circumstance that you have to face in your life. He's talking in generalities. Love is going to bear all things. So when you go through those down moments, those downturns in your marriage, you go through those downturns in a relationship with a friend, love bears those things. It works it out. It keeps striving and struggling towards those because your love for them, your love for God, that's what gets you through all of it. And really, there's 3 different aspects of love I want you to think about that will help you understand how love bears all things. And number 1 is this, is you've got to have a love for God. Because when you love God with all of your heart and all of your soul and mind and strength, then here's what's going to happen. When you face tough times in life, you're going to want to get through them. Because you know that if you get through them, you are an encouragement to people around you. You know that your kids are watching. You know that your parents are watching. You know that other people see how you respond to these things. And so because of and out of your love for God, your desire to glorify Him, you're going to work hard to bear up under this so that you are a good witness to Him, to the people who are watching you. But here's the second thing that you need to know about love. You've got to have a love for yourself. Now, we don't talk about that a lot because there are times where people take that and they twist it. And they'll twist it in this direction and they'll twist it in that direction. They'll think, well, they become almost egotistical about it, like just so in love with themselves. It's all about me, all about mine, all about myself. And that's not obviously what God is talking about. There's other times where people have they don't have any love for themselves. And it turns into almost a self-hatred. You read things and hear things about people harming themselves, cutting and just doing other things. Self-harm is just as wrong in the eyes of God as just being an egotistical maniac over here. When God is talking about loving yourself, it's this healthy, rational, I care about me. I'm not going to harm myself. I'm not going to think too highly of myself, but neither am I going to degrade myself either because I'm created in the image of God. And so here's what happens. As you love God, it enables you and it provides a motive for you to bear up under things. But as you love yourself, you also know that you got to bear up under things. You got to bear all things because the alternative to bearing it is failing. It is really struggling if you give up and just quit. And so you keep going because you have a healthy, correct love of self. And Jesus, when He talks about the second greatest commandment, remember, love the Lord your God. And He says, love your neighbor as yourself. So the love of our neighbor is predicated, as the foundation of loving our neighbor is loving ourselves. And so I think sometimes the reason people treat their neighbor so badly is because they don't like themselves very much. But if we understand how to in a healthy way, love ourselves, then it teaches us how to treat other people. So if you want to bear with other folks, you got to love God. You got to learn how to love yourself. And as you love God and love yourself, then it provides the foundation for you to know how to love other people. And so love bears all things. That love for God, that love for yourself, and love for other people. Here's the second one. It says that love struggles through life's questions. That love believes all things. It bears all things, and it believes all things. It struggles through the questions in life. We've all gone through times where we're like, God, why? Lord, why did that person die? Why did I have to struggle through that time in my life? Lord, why would you allow this to happen to me? But love believes all things. And again, you don't want to press that and go, I believe anything and everything somebody said. That's not what God is saying. What it's saying is that love has this sense of hope in the present difficulties that we're dealing with. It struggles through the life's questions that we have. You know, sometimes I hear people talk about, and they say, well, if I just understood, then everything would be okay. If God would just explain to me why this has happened, then there would be a sense of peace or a sense of commitment or contentment. But we won't always have the answers to our questions, will we? And there's a reason and a purpose for that, because God wants us to understand that it's not just the answer to our questions that we need. What we need is Christ. Because if you've ever come to a place of trusting Christ as Savior, or maybe some bad things happen, you've asked why, but God did just a really unique and special work in your life, and He never gave you the answer. But you walked away from that experience with God thinking, you know what, it's okay. And the reason why is this, is because once we meet Christ, once God really fills our heart with the Spirit of God, then all of a sudden the answers to the questions don't matter as much to us. Do y'all understand that? That we just don't care about the answer as much because we've got everything that we need in Christ. And so love struggles through the questions that we have in life. I've been reading through in my Bible in the book of Genesis the whole Egyptian slavery thing with the Hebrews. And I was thinking about this message in relation to that. And I said, okay, God, I don't understand why in your providence and in your sovereignty you would allow people that you say you love, people that you say are very important to you, people who you say are going to be your very own people throughout all the history, why would you allow them to go through this? But when you think about the whole event in kind of like in just a big picture view, you begin to see God's sovereignty in His providence in all the things that He was working. Because there was this famine in the land that drove Joseph's family out of the land of Canaan over into the land of Egypt. They were 70 people at that time. That's it. That's all. And God said, I'm going to make a nation out of you. So they move them over into the land of Egypt. And because of Joseph and his relationship with Pharaoh, they get the very best of the land. The way the Bible puts it is the fat of the land. And they move them into the land of Goshen. And you know what? And God blesses them there. When they leave later on, 400 years later, there are millions of Hebrews. And so they have the protection and also the provision of the greatest nation on the face of the earth. Nobody's going to destroy them. They're going to have everything they need because God's put them in the exact place that He wanted them to be with all the provisions that they needed. And then you find what happens in their life is that they fall into slavery. You're like, God, why would you allow your people to fall into slavery? But when you begin to think about what happened while they were in slavery, you begin to understand it. They multiplied. I mean, just millions of folks happened because Pharaoh got so nervous about how many kids they were having. He tells the Hebrew midwives, you need to kill all the boys because there was way too many of these Hebrews out here right now. And so God blesses them and they were fruitful and they multiply. They also learn all the trades that they need to know to how to create, how to build and establish a nation of people with the cities and the government and the structure and all those types of things they needed to know as a nation. And then as they were being driven out after the 10 plagues, do you know what happened? Is that they plundered the Egyptians. All the gold, all the silver, everything was given to the Hebrews. They're just like, take it and leave. And then God does something just to kind of cap it all off. He destroyed the entire Egyptian army in the Red Sea. So now you have this group of people who are millions of people strong. They've got all of these trades, all of these skills. They've plundered the Egyptians. They have all the wealth that they need to be able to establish a nation. Any threat against them, the Egyptian army, has now been completely and totally decimated, and they are set up and ready to go to be God's nation and His people. But when you look back over there, I can't imagine that a whole lot of them say, God, why? Why are you allowing this to happen to us? Why are you allowing these things to go on in our lives? You see, in God's providence and in God's sovereignty, God still works all things out for the good of those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. We don't know why in the middle of it. I can't give you all the answers. But as you believe all things, as love believes all things, that listen, Jesus will be enough for you. You won't have to have all the answers to all the questions. Here's a third one. That love holds out hope for the future in spite of the present. It says love bears all things, it believes all things, and love hopes all things. That there is this hope in your future that really is almost to the point where you can't explain it. Just like you know it's going to be okay because God's got plans for your life. In Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11, it says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope." And that's what God has for you. I tell my kids this all the time. Look, God's got plans for you. I remember some of the kids that came down here in the last couple of weeks and prayed to receive Jesus. I told them, listen, God has plans for you. Plans that are great. Plans that He's going to use you. Do you believe that about yourself? Because sometimes we don't. We're like, God's got no plans for me. Listen, God loves you and He cares for you and He has a plan for your life. And so love believes all things. It has this just unshakable belief and faith that the future that God has for you is good because God says it is. And because God says He's going to use it for your good. The last one is endurance. That love endures all things. And that's how we get through life successfully. You know, sometimes in life is easy, isn't it? I mean, when there's no stress and everything's kind of cool, nobody's sick, there's no financial problems, we tend to add things to life, don't we? You know, we'll start this hobby, we'll have that project going on, and then when life gets really stressful, we kind of just start kind of getting rid of all the little extra projects and things because it gets really difficult on us. Well, in those difficult times is when it requires endurance from you. You're going to have it. And so love, it endures all things. It endures the relational ups and downs. It endures the personal ups and downs. It just endures through all of these things in life. And you need it. You need that love for God, that love for yourself, and the love for other people. And so love does. It bears all things. It believes all things. It hopes all things. It endures all things. Love never fails. So here's my question for you this morning. What do you need to pick up? What aspect of love in your life you just need to take it and just go, hey, we need to do a better job at this one. Because for some of us, it may be, hey, your love for God, it's just not where it needs to be. And you need to have that love for God where it needs to be so that you can bear all things, believe all things, hope all things, and endure all things. And you know it's the relationship with the Lord right now that's just kind of like, it's on ice. It's not good. Maybe you need to pick up that area of your life. Maybe the love that you need to pick up on is the love of self. I mean, you're just really hating yourself. Maybe you're liking yourself way too much. I don't know which one it is. But there's a sweet spot in the middle of there to where you have a good, healthy love for yourself. And maybe you need to tone it down. Maybe you need to bring it up a little bit. But you do. But to love yourself so that you can bear all things, believe all things, hope all things, and endure all things. Or maybe for you, it's the last one. The love of other people. God's good, you're good, but on the others, you've been slacking there. And so you really need to work on loving the other people who are around you so that you can bear all things, believe all things, hope all things, and endure all things. Because love never fails. It is the most excellent way. Let's pray together. Every soul, every beating heart.